Hello, assalamu alaikum everyone. Let's wait for another 2-3 minutes. So let's all the participants join and then we start the meeting. So this is Sufi from Artnetics Limited. Today we'll be discussing about the ransomware solution. So prevention starts with ransomware. So if you guys have any questions in this session when we start, you can ask anytime. So you feel free to know about the solution or how we are uh, presenting. If any questions or concerns, please let us know. Am I audible to you, all of you guys? If anyone, Nahin or Mr. Nahin or anyone can just confirm that I'm audible. One second, there are a few new invitees are attended. So welcome on board. Assalamu alaikum to everyone. Good morning. We'll be starting this session within 2 minutes. So let's wait for another 2 minutes just to get all the participants. So in the session, I see a lot of guys are here. So just to mention that Farooq Bhai and others, please, if you have any other questions, anything in the middle of this session, please do stop us and let us know what are the questions and concerns from your side. We'll happy to share all of the information with you. So yeah. Assalamu alaikum everyone. So let's start this session. I think so. This is Sufi from Artnetics. So I would like to welcome you to today's session. Prevention starts with deep instinct. So In this session, we'll share how ransomware attacks can be prevented through deep learning technology. So from my side, Shomik is here from Arthnetics, and Mr. Arin from Deep Instinct, Mr. Thep from Deep Instinct, and Ashvi and others are available here to assist you to share the solutions with you today. So thank you for participating. I would like to request Mr. Arin to please start today's session from your side. Yeah.
Sure. Thank you, Sufi. I hope my voice is coming okay.
Yes.
Today I'll be presenting the technology related to endpoint cybersecurity. What we'll be discussing today is, first off, we'll be discussing the kind of threats that we are seeing spreading around. How has it changed? Why should we reconsider the way we defend ourselves with our endpoint protection technology platforms that we are currently using? I'll be discussing the technology behind why we think deep learning is a better approach to applying to your endpoint security platform. And at any point at all, I'll be stopping here and there to ask if there to a live demonstration of the platform as well. We'll be showing you how we interact with different types of threats, what we can see as well. And of course, in the future, we're ready to pursue into a deeper side with you as well. Now, let's just start off by analyzing what are the threats that we are talking about, right? When we are talking about our endpoints, when we are talking about our PCs, our laptops, our servers. Actually, before I go on, Sufi, is my voice coming on okay?
Yes, absolutely, Arin, coming.
All right, thanks a lot. Right, so as I was saying, when we're considering our endpoints, whether it's a PC, a laptop, or a server, there are multiple layers of threats and multiple types of threats. One type of one angle that we'll be looking at today will be a file-based threat as well as fileless threats. We won't be exploring anything related to phishing attacks. We won't be in terms of social engineering. We won't be exploring things in the side of a network layer attack. On those discussions, we're more than happy to discuss in other sessions as well. But today, with the platform itself, it has been designed to prevent, to mitigate any file-based and fileless attacks. So now when we're discussing file-based and fileless attacks, we are commonly discussing malwares, right? And okay, sorry, I thought there was a question there. When we're discussing malwares, we're all quite as we keep them up to date, it should be okay. And the days where those are the main threats are over. Today, what we are seeing is that the sophistication of these types of threats are increasing. The numbers are increasing. We're talking about 400 up to 500,000 new malwares being created every day. So now we are talking about a lot about unknown malwares, because we don't have enough time to update all their signatures, no matter how quickly we're updating. Back in the days, it used to be common that an antivirus is updated once a month. Today, we're talking about a few times a week, or for some solutions, a few times a day. We're talking about, keeping it connected to the internet all the time so that it can cross-reference with its main server in the clouds. So that's all the effort to deal with unknown malwares. And what I want you to recognize here is that the way that we have been approaching this so far is increasing how frequent we do our updates. And that is okay as long as, you know, you're not the first target, right? As long as somebody else is unlucky before you, by the time you get those threats, it should be protected. As long as you're careful when you're using your machines, it should be okay. But again, the days where those are the main threats are now over, because now we're talking about 0 days, which means that you have no chance of updating. It's the first time anyone's going to see it, right? And moreover, we're talking about ransomwares and ransomware as a service. We're seeing targeted attacks. We're seeing a whole industry being targeted in the same month or in the same week, all attacked at the same time, and then it's over. They never use that malware again. So even if you do the update, chances are you're not going to meet the same threat that the solution claims to be protected against. By the time you see your nemesis, it's going to be the one you've never met before. It's going to be the one that you have never had the chance to update against. And of course, moreover than that, we're talking about fireless attacks. We're talking about supply chain attacks. We're talking about the fact that we are using signature-based, and now we have upgraded ourselves into using an AI-based endpoint protection model. Most of us nowadays, I will assume that you're not just using a signature-based. That's down here. Those days are over a long time ago, right? Nowadays, we're using machine learning-based. And with machine learning-based, what they're doing, and I'll go into a more in-depth details in this in a little bit. On the defending side, we're using machine learning to protect ourselves. On the attacker side, they're also using AI to come up with new creative ways to break and finally hack into our machine. And you know, it's not like none of us are doing anything. Most of us sitting here, we have been involved with defending an organization, or at least, you know, glossing over the policy of cybersecurity in the organization. And we're seeing there's a lot of effort and investment currently being thrown at cybersecurity. And a lot of organizations may not have the same problem, but and when I'm talking about lack of skilled staff, it's not like those guys are not good at what they do, but currently with the sophistication of the threats and what is required to be protected against them, we can also see that it's becoming it's taking a lot more time, and no organization can afford the most specialized threat hunter to be employed at their level. You know, and that's why we're not talking about an organization having a lack of skilled staff. We're talking about an entire region having lack of skilled staff, right? So no one can have enough people to proactively defend their organization because right now the team is dealing with a lot of alerts, a lot of false positives. The solution, the technology that we are relying on is taking way too long to detect the attacks. And the attacker has come in seconds, sometimes days, sometimes weeks before we realize that they're in here. And of course, with the sophistication, the attacks as well, it's becoming harder and harder. And what we are seeing today is that the risk has increased. The human ability to respond, you know, we are doing our best. We are getting more certifications. We are learning about more technology, and we have more experiences now, so we can do even better. But I'm not putting more pressure on the human, but the point is, right here is where the technology is supposed to fill in the gap. And right now the technology is not doing it. Point. Sorry, is that a question?
If anyone has any question, please let us know.
Okay. All right, I'll keep going then. And as we see here, this is why we're not seeing a ransomware or a malware issue being located focused in one particular area, but we're seeing this problem being spreading around all around the world, and it's not as a regional specific problem anymore. And right now we don't know who's going to be targeting next, because the widespreadness and the number of malwares are being increased in an exponential phase, in an exponential level as well. Now, I discussed before about us using the solutions that we are currently using at each organizations, I hope that you're not using a signature-based model anymore. You're currently most likely using some kind of solution that employs an AI-based capability, and the most likely AI base they're using is the machine learning base, right? So how does this work? And what we will be discussing today is we believe that it is more beneficial and you can achieve a lot higher efficacy using deep learning techniques to defend your endpoints. Now, I'll just go through a few key differences here. First of all, the way machine learning works, it still requires updates. The reason why, it's because the AI that is operating at the endpoint level, what they are trying to do is that they're trying to detect 2% of the raw data. They have a specific pattern, a specific scripting pattern, attack pattern, programming pattern. Doesn't matter what kind of pattern. Let's say there's 100% of the algorithm to that attack. What they have studied, what has been applied to each updates that they're getting, is that they're trying to look for the 2% that they have been taught. So essentially, what you're doing is that if I'm going to tell you that somebody's going to rob the bank, all the information I can give you is that they're wearing a black helmet. You don't know if it's a man or a woman. You don't know how tall that person is. You don't know how many they're coming in with. I'm just telling you that they'll be wearing black helmets. And this is what machine learning is doing. They're just looking for the black helmet. And there's a lot of problems with just looking at 2% of the raw data. You have a lot of false positives. There's also another problem. If you look at more raw data with the way that, with the limitation that machine learning AI has, it's going to take too much resources from your machine. And as it is, users are already complaining that their endpoint software is taking too much of their resources, right? So first of all, this is how it works. This is how it operates in order to detect whether it's a static analysis, whether it's a behavior analysis, whether it's a analysis from the IOC. At maximum, they'll be taking about 2% of the raw data in order to consider if this is a malware or not. It takes a while. It takes a bit of a resources as well. And this is why you require constant updates, because there are hundreds and hundreds of, there are 500,000 new malwares being created every 24 hours. So there's a lot of 2%, there's a lot of data to input at each update already. The way deep learning works is different off the bat here. Instead of us trying to inject more updates into our solution, using even more company resources, using, slowing down the bandwidth is not enough, but also slowing down the machine, slowing down the entire operation as a whole. Instead of going down that path, what if we build the AI that instead of trying to detect a pattern, it actually ingests 100% of the raw data, and using what it has learned, how it has learned to identify the difference between threats and benign files or fileless operations. Based on that, based on reading 100% of the raw data, then decide if it's a threat or not. This is the first key difference. The machine learning solutions will use 2 to 5% of the raw data. Deep learning will use 100% of the raw data to make its decision. The reason we can do this is because we don't do feature engineering. We don't have to detect a particular attack pattern. We don't have to detect a particular 2% that we're looking for. What we do is that we teach the AI to be able to automatically ingest the data and teach itself to be able to identify the difference between bad and good. And all of this is happening at Deep Instinct Lab. It's not happening at your organization. The agent that sits at your machine, it's already graduated. There's no learning being done there. But at our lab, it's automatically and continuously learning about more and more threats. And from what we have been operating so far, Deep Instinct it requires updates about 2 to 4 times a year. Imagine that. Imagine an antivirus that can only be updated 2 to 4 times a month even. That will save a lot of time. but I'm talking about 2 to 4 times a year. I'm talking about 50 to 100 times less number of updates per year. And yet we can detect zero-day attacks and unknown malware attacks and ransomwares
Yeah.
and other types of
Arun,
file-based
sorry to
environments.
interrupt you. So I feel like I have one question for this. How this update actually works? You're saying that no updates is required daily basis, right? For the zero-day attack, how you will protect? So this part actually, if you can kindly.
I'm not sure if I'm capturing the question correctly. So yes, we do not do updates as frequently. Is the question on then how do we decide to prevent the attacks?
Yeah, because all other solutions may be so. So thing is that how actually it is doing it. What are the internal mechanisms, kind of
Right. I
strengths?
might
Yeah.
not be clear, but that's exactly what I've been explaining so far. I might
Sorry
not
to
be
interrupt you. Yeah, if any questions from any others regarding this session, please do let us know. Yeah. So Arin, please
right.
continue.
I, I
Yeah.
I I will be more specific about what we do with the malwares, but here I would just like to point out the technical differences between uh, how deep learning is different from machine learning in the operational basis, right? So first, how much data it takes in is different. Secondly, the update requirement is different because we don't require feature engineering. The learning is actually automatic at our lab, right? And then finally, we can teach it to learn about a lot more new file types, a lot more new fileless attack types as well. And essentially what we want to achieve is a much higher efficacy, right? These numbers are not made up numbers. We can do a POC with you at your organization, at your environment, and we can explore this further and compare it with other solutions that you may wish to in the future as well. We'll see some key differences here as well today. The main thing here, it's not just here, it's not just this number. The bigger, the better this number is, of course, is better, right? But what is important is also here. This is going to save so much time for the operators. Right now, they're spending hours and hours just looking through false positive data. If you're talking about 1 to 2% false positives, that is, 1 to 2 events extra for every 100 events. If you have 1,000 machines, that's 5 to 10 events extra a day. That's another hour down the drain because you look through all that false positives, you may not find anything. If you don't look through them, there's a problem. If you do look through them and you find nothing, then you could have done something else with all that time. So currently, what Deep Instinct also boasts is a lot less false positives during their operations as well. Now, we've talked a bit about deep learning. Why we're talking about deep learning today is because Deep Instinct is the pioneer in applying deep learning technology into cybersecurity. What we've done is we've built a dedicated AI with deep learning capabilities specifically to identify the difference between cyber threats in the file-based and fileless attacks towards your endpoints. It has been designed to work on multiple operating systems. It can work on Windows Server, it can work on Windows machines, multiple Windows OSs are supported, Linux machines, Mac OS machines, as well as other mobile platforms as well. It has been proven and referenced all around the world in multiple industries. We have also had a lot of, we've also garnered a lot of recognitions and awards year in and year out. So far, we're still the only end-to-end deep learning solution that is made specifically for endpoint protection. And therefore, what I'll be discussing next is I don't want you to feel like I'm putting down every other solution. The fact of the matter is we can be integrated with the current infrastructure. Because Deep Instinct is different, we're not considered an antivirus. We can in some cases we have been used by sitting next to the antivirus. we have been integrated with their EDR or XDR solutions. We have been also being used to replace those solutions, and if it makes sense for the organization. It depends on what your focus is, and this is what I'll be discussing next, before I go into discussing the actual operations with the threats. Because at the end of the day, when we're exploring a solution, we're also wondering where it fits, right? With everything that we've already invested in, how does this fit into the picture? So here I would like to go under the perspective of, okay, we want to build our capability to defend our endpoints. We want to defend our endpoints against file-based and fileless attacks. Ransomware is the biggest on the news right now, and of course, most of us are worried about that. Targeted attacks are becoming more and more of a problem. It's becoming more frequent. How do we defend against that? So the first time people hear about this is they usually think about antiviruses, and that's not a bad thought. You're right? We've been using antiviruses all along, but obviously today we understand that signatures, they have a lot of limitations towards today's threats, and even though they are quite cheap, they're commonly available, we're widely known, they're just not enough against these threats. And that's why in the past few years we've seen that our endpoint solutions have been upgrading from a simple antivirus to an EPP. Some of us have also upgraded a little bit further, a bit more expensive, into an EDR or an XDR. And as you can see here, at each step of the investment, it keeps getting more and more expensive, right? And sometimes most of these solutions are made by the same vendor. So you don't feel like you're upgrading, you just feel like you're buying more, because right now you have a whole suite. You have a whole suite of capabilities that you can do. It's not even about endpoint protections anymore. It's about USB blocking. It's about endpoint firewalls. It's about DLPs. It's about, and you lose focus. But right here, I just want to bring it back that right now, from what we have invested in the name of protecting against malicious attacks, we have invested all this, and what we have achieved so far is all this investment is not enough. Everywhere that I've seen so far, even if you've bought an XDR, the next problem comes. XDR does not get better than other machine learning models in terms of preventing against malwares, because at the end of the day, you're still using a machine learning level, and it has its limitation. As mentioned before, it still requires frequent updates or being connected to the internet all the time. It needs to keep learning about new attack patterns. Remember that 2 to 5% of the raw data, it has to keep learning that. So it doesn't matter if you bought this or this, it still has the same limitation in machine learning. Now, different brands, different solutions, they'll have different capabilities because they all build their own AIs, right? But at the end of the day, as long as you're going with machine learning, you're still stuck with the limitation that you require constant updates, because you cannot process 100% of the raw data. You're looking for a very specific pattern of data, right? And as companies have invested all the way to XDR, what they found next is that they have to increase their visibility. They have so much information now, they need something to filter out the false positives. They have a lot of information, they have a lot of solutions now, they need some help managing everything together. They need to hire more people, they have to buy more solutions to help them manage. And as you can see, the investment hasn't stopped. And if I may ask, are you more protected against ransomware now? Not really. Not that much more than here. But there's a lot more investments involved now. So I'm not saying that all these solutions and all these capabilities are pointless. They're of course very useful, and that's why a lot of organizations have bought them. But if you're buying them to protect against ransomwares, it doesn't work for you that well. What this does is providing you full visibility, but nobody is going to be there to detect at the time it happens. And as you will see in the next slides, when the ransomware comes in, it's not one file that comes in and ruins it all for all of us. It's a multiple stages attack. So even if you do monitor, even if you see all the visibility, there's nothing to confirm that you'll catch it at the time it happens, because that's the attacker side job, right? They're trying to be as sneaky as possible. So what I want to mention here is it doesn't, I'm not saying all these features are pointless. They're of course very useful, but when it comes to your organization and your team's capabilities and the entire purpose of your operations, does it make sense for every organization to buy all of this? Certainly not. But most organizations, what they have to focus on right now, and as we see more and more around the world, is we have to do a better job at preventing against file-based and fileless attacks. We have to do a better job at reducing our risk from ransomware attacks, and that's where Deep Instinct comes in. Deep Instinct can be integrated with all these solutions, but as I mentioned, you know, for financial reasons, it will make sense for some organizations to stop investing in some of the solutions that they may think, you know, it's too advanced, it's too specialized. They don't have a dedicated cyber team anyways. Why buy it? Not everyone has to be a cyber detective, but everyone has to protect their organization. And that's where Deep Instinct can be a solution there. And with Deep Instinct, what we have seen, whether it's in terms of a replacing or complementing the entire infrastructure, what we've seen with the addition of Deep Instinct is that the number of actionable alerts, manual actionable alerts, have been a lot less. Instead of going through all of that, now the team only has to go through 10% of what they had to before. From 100 events a day, now only go through 10 events a day. It opens up a lot more time, and no organization has enough IT guys. Everyone is shorthanded. So if you can reduce the manual labor, at the same time you're keeping the organization safe, it's better for everyone. With the addition of Deep Instinct, what we've seen is that the management time has also been improved, and the false positives have also been decreased dramatically. And the time to spend looking through that false positive has also been reduced dramatically. And as I mentioned, this can easily save you 1 to 2 hours every day easily. Now, what I've mentioned before is, you know, how a lot of solutions can be beneficial in many ways. They have a lot of useful features, but when it comes to a ransomware attack, it may not be as beneficial. So here I would just like to briefly take you through a typical ransomware attack. Up to now, does anyone has any questions before I go on? Okay. Again, if anyone has any questions, you can put it in the chat as well, or raise your hand at any point. So in a typical ransomware attack, what we see here at the point, at the red dot, is where it starts, right? Now, what does start means? Start means that the attacker has successfully infiltrated your organization. It has successfully implemented some kind of malicious threat into your organization. This threat does not have to be the ransomware. All this threat has to do is begin the ransomware mission. It has to work together as a team. Within a few seconds, it starts spreading to other machines. It starts looking at lateral movements. Within less than a minute, new systems become infected. Within the same network topology, new system starts becoming infected. Within a few minutes, it starts moving, evading all attacks, evading all monitoring defense, and starts working laterally until it looks for its target. What is the most critical asset at this infrastructure? That's what it's looking for. And within a few minutes, it's achieved that. And here is where we realize we have a ransomware problem. This is where most customers realize, oh, I have a ransomware, because now there's a notice at my screen saying that there's a full encryption. And the bad news is, at this point, you don't know what's been happening before. Even if you catch this and delete this, it's not going to stop whatever happened before. And the bad news is the attacker can just put in another one here and achieve the attack again. Because at the end of the day, what we're seeing, as I mentioned before, the attacks nowadays are becoming a lot more targeted. There's a lot more effort being put on one attack or one campaign rather. And this is why it's scary for the customer, because by the time they realize, what they don't realize is that it's been here for weeks already, or at least days, right? And what the customer now spends a lot of time on and a lot of resources on is investigation and remediation. And even after this, uh, you know, you're not much safer than before, because a new attack that is targeted for you or your industry or your region, it may come in again. And that's the problem right now, right? It's not the customer as in like your customer's confidence. I'm talking about the organization that was attacked, the people working in those offices, their confidence to use the machine. I have seen organizations that have been attacked, and I'm there for 6 to 8 hours after they've been attacked. No one dares to touch their keyboard, because they don't want to be blamed for the next machine that gets hit. And it affects the entire operation. Of course, financial loss is a problem. We know that, but indirect financial loss is a lot greater loss. And reputation, it depends on if the news gets out or not, but definitely the news gets in, right? So at least everyone in the organization knows, and there is already enough damage. Now with Deep Instinct, how is it different, right? The way Deep Instinct works, and you will see this during the demonstration as well, Deep Instinct will require less than 20 milliseconds to detect any threats that come in through a file-based or a fileless attack. As soon as the campaign happens, as soon as the first malware comes in, the first one that employs a backdoor or a dropper before it starts spreading, that is where Deep Instinct reacts. The way Deep Instinct handles a malicious threat is that it does its prevention before it touches your hard drive through our static analysis. This is 750 times faster than ransomware can encrypt. And only through deep learning method, you can achieve this. Because with deep learning, as you've seen before, we take 100% of the algorithm in order to make our decision. And that is why we can achieve a much higher precision rate as well. Once we put it through Deep Instinct, as I mentioned before, Deep Instinct is a new category. It's a new technology. It has been made to be integratable, very integratable. And in some organizations' case, they may have a threat hunter. They may have a cyber analyst team. And in those cases, more information can be sent there because now you've caught more. With more information, you can do a further analysis. But if you use a machine learning model, if you use an older technology that could not detect these ransomwares, if the ransomware has gone all the way here already, there's nothing to investigate. Because the bad news is, by the time this hits, everything here, it deletes itself already. They're not going to leave themselves open to be found. And that's a problem. But with Deep Instinct, what we've caught here can be analyzed all the way. And you've caught a lot more information and a lot less noise as well, right? And therefore, once you know that, you can also think about patching and hardening your system and hardening your policy as well. And Deep Instinct can also support enhancing the endpoint level policies in the organization in a very safe and a very quick manner as well. So I think for the interest of time, instead of talking through a case study, I think we should just jump into a demonstration. But before I go into that, let me just summarize the way Deep Instinct does its defense. First of all, what we've seen before, what I've talked about before, Deep Instinct takes about 20 milliseconds to make its decision. And as I mentioned, we do our prevention pre-execution, which means it's done before the hard drive is touched, right? It's decided with 100% of the algorithm being taken into consideration. The decision comes before they are written onto your disk. The question comes is, as you're looking through other solutions, everyone's talking about zero-day attacks. Everyone's talking about a ransomware attack. Everyone's talking about an unknown malware attack. And the question becomes, can a machine learning solution detect those zero-day attacks? The answer is yes. But what they have to do is rely on runtime and post-execution. It's different from Deep Instinct's deep learning algorithm. What that means is that it has to allow the malware to run first and then see what happens. You have to allow the thief to come into your house because you're not sure if he's a thief or he's a guest. So you have to let him into your house first. If he starts stealing, then you kick him out. And that's what that means. And as you can see, this exposes a lot more risk to the organization because then the damage starts. And as you saw in the previous slide, the job starts within the first few seconds. So the safest way you can put your organization in is providing a pre-execution prevention with deep learning, which decides even before it touches your hard drive. Secondly, with deep learning technology, with Deep Instinct, what we'll see during the demonstration as well, Deep Instinct makes a decision on the spot. It does not require you to be constantly connected to the internet. We don't require constant updates. That's the whole point of deep learning. The immunity is built right in, right? You don't have to constantly ask the central server, the cloud server, if it's safe to run a particular file. It saves a lot of time. It saves a lot of resources and network bandwidth as well. And that's, of course, another benefit that we've seen with Deep Instinct's operations. And lastly, I mentioned this a couple of times already, it works in any environment. It's not trying to cut away features from your life. What we're doing is that we are beefing up the defense, and at the same time, we can be integrated with the currently existing infrastructure and increasing the prevention capability and efficacy as well. This is the rough network architecture. We can do a deeper dive into this, but what I want to focus here very, very quickly is that there's no personal information being sent out, right? There's no need to worry about how we will deal with the organization's data because we don't pull any data out from your organization. We don't do any references. Everything is prevented within the endpoint within 20 milliseconds. Deep Instinct's lab is the one taking care of all the studying, right? It updates the reputation engine. The reputation engine is updated through the management console, then it's sent to your machine. Any events that happens in your machine, only the events that are reported are being sent up to the management console. So we're not going to have to worry about the privacy issues there as well. And of course, any other details here, we have REST API, we have syslog integration, we have SMTP integrations. There are multiple ways to integrate to your infrastructure in order to do the reporting and further analysis as well. This is one of the case studies that we've had before with the consortium. This is a case study from an MSSP provider in the US. And pretty much for the interest of time, I won't go in through all the details, but basically what Deep Instinct has done, what Deep Instinct has proven in this particular case is that it's proven it's worth more than the EDR for an MSSP. Of course, an EDR has a lot of great features in terms of forensics, right? And forensics can be important once the damage is hit. But what Consortium has done is they, instead of relying on the EDR to do the defense, they start relying on the EDR for the forensics. And for the defense, what they've done is they've used Deep Instinct. And what they've found is by adding Deep Instinct into their stack, more threats are being prevented even faster. And because there are a lot less events, there are a lot less actionable alerts, it has reduced the operational costs dramatically. It's boosted their customer confidence. Obviously, they're looking after the security. Less customers are getting linked.
If anyone has any questions, please ask. We are eagerly waiting for the questions to reply, because after this, so we'll be demonstrating the solution, right?
Yeah, right after this, we'll jump into the demonstration.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to make sure if anyone, I just wanted to be clear if anyone had any questions.
Hi, Arun. This is Hasib. I have a question. Yeah, as the solution is based on deep learning, so as you will show the demo, but how can as we are checking, we are attending the meeting, how we can understand that your solution is based on deep learning, not for machine learning or something? How, as a customer or a user of the solution, how would we understand that? Hello.
Um,
Yeah.
I'm trying to unpack your question here. Am I understanding correctly?
So,
You're
Arin,
trying to.
the question is like this, that as a customer, all other solutions are in machine learning. So deep instinct approach is to have like deep learning, as we are saying
Sure.
this thing, right? So how actually we should be, like we have IPs or not, or something like that. So how deep learning is actually working on behind, and deep instinct is actually providing the deep learning solution. Yeah.
Right. So there are multiple levels of answers that can be given, right? Like, if you're asking, can I prove the technology that we're using deep learning, not machine learning? The answer is deep learning is a more advanced version of machine learning. It's a subset of machine learning. It's not specifically made for deep instinct, right? Deep learning has been applied in multiple other industries. Deep learning, what deep instinct has done is built its own specialized AI using deep learning for cybersecurity. Now, if the question is aiming at a less technical answer, then we have materials where we can share with you on how Deep Instinct has discussed how deep learning works in their technology. I would also encourage you to visit Deep Instinct's website. There's a lot of information there about the actual technology part in both layman's terms and very, very technical terms. There's a lot of resources there as well.
Absolutely, Arin. In addition to it, Hasib Bhai, there is another thing I would like to share with you. We in Deep Instinct already has like 4 patents on in the deep learning technology. So we have also documentation of that. Arin, just adding. Sorry to interrupt you. Yeah.
No, no, no. Of course, that's a good addition.
Yeah.
Um, sorry,
Uh,
I am not sure
yeah,
which level you're coming from, so I
thanks
didn't
for
know how
sharing.
to unpack.
I have another question.
Sure.
Like as you described on the presentation that machine learning works on some kind of 2% of data, but deep learning works on 100% of data. So
Yep.
in that case, if in the solution, I think what kind of resource actually it utilize, like its storage or other things like memory, CPU. How
Sure.
what is the size of the hardware specification compared to the machine learning solution? I
Sure.
think it would be larger in size, right?
No. We take about the installation file is about 25 megabytes. Once installed, it takes up about 130 megabytes of your hard drive on a Windows machine. It requires it's recommended that you should have I think 2 GB RAM, but we require about less than half a gigabyte of RAM. 2-core CPU machine will work. So no, not a lot of resources at all, sir. And there's a reason for that, because we don't store the signatures, right? So we use a lot less hard drive space as well. We just input our agent we input the guy that makes the decision. We don't put the uh the threat intelligence information on your machine, and that's why we use a lot less space as well.
Yeah. In addition to that, Arin, I'd like to say one more thing, that in the as we already know about the deep learning technology is heavily GPU based, and this technology actually requires a lot of GPUs to process all the 100% of the data, raw data. I think Hasifai, the thing is that here this agent is actually a mirror of the main learning. It's just a brain of a mimicking the same technology is happening in the other side. Arun, I think you can explain much better. I believe. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not sure if this is the best. This is a pretty good one. So as you can see here, the way that we apply the learning into your machine, all the learning is happening here. The level where you're using Deep Instinct is here. The level where IT security is accessing the information is here, right? So everything is separated quite clearly. The guys here cannot access here. They cannot remove Deep Instinct from their machine. They cannot change the policies on their machine. They cannot do anything. This is only open to the people who has access to the management console, right? And the brain is sent from here. It's learned here. Once it's finished its training for each update, when I say 2 to 4 times updates a year, this is what's sent to the cloud SaaS. Once it's here, then you can choose if you want to manually or automatically push it to all your endpoints. And the informations that are flowing in and out of your endpoints are only this much. So in terms of resource consumption is very, very low because we only take the information out of your machine when there is an event. We only put the information into your machine when there's an update in the policies, in the agents versions, or whatever else. In terms of GPU consumption, I have not heard any concerns raised about this. We've installed Deep Instinct with an integrated Intel graphics machine. It works fine. There's no issues there at all. Did I answer the question
the
correctly?
management console is on cloud, right? Only agent need to be installed on endpoint, then it will communicate to management console, which is on cloud. Then security team actually get another console, or they access the management console of the cloud.
Yes, there's absolutely no hardware requirement. The cloud instance.
So the solution is based on cloud, not in on-prem. On-premise solution.
No on-prem model, sir.
Yeah, understand.
But Hasibhai, this thing is that the cloud SaaS service is only for the management console, and it can only give the visibility of the attacks have been happened. So the thing is that the end user environment itself can protect. It doesn't require any signature or anything to connect with it doesn't require any internet connection even. It can prevent the brain comes, as Arin said, the brain comes like four brains in a year. So only that time, if you schedule something,
Okay,
or if you,
understood.
yeah, if you have
so
any,
update
yeah,
actually, the agent actually, actually management actually providing the signature to agent, then agent actually working on the endpoint.
no signature, no signature, no signature. No signature because
there's no signature.
Yeah, Arin, if you can explain, yeah, this part.
Well, it does not try to detect if there's a bad signature, right? Like I mentioned, it takes everything. So does it take signature? Yes and no, because it does not decide on the signature. It decides on other vectors, which I for each instance, it could be anything in that 100% of the algorithm that it decides that this is not a benign file. Let me jump into the demonstration.
Yeah, sure.
I have my team here, Mr. Asawi. Oak, are you ready?
Yes, Arvind.
Okay, if you can share your screen, we'll take them through. I think everyone will have a much clearer idea of how Deep Instinct reacts and what we can see from the prevention as well.
Okay, sure. Let me share my screen real fast.
Today, we will not be comparing Deep Instinct with any other solutions. We'll just be showing you Deep Instinct's capability. However, we'll be referencing centralized threat intelligence in order to show how Deep Instincts react differently from other machine learning solutions. Can everyone see the screen okay?
Yeah, I can see.
Okay.
So everyone, if just give a heads up if you can see the screen.
All right. So here,
I think it's okay for everyone. So yeah, Arvind, go ahead.
Okay เดี๋ยวผมล่ามนะ Okay, so this is Deep Instinct's agent on the machine. The way to access Deep Instinct's agent on the machine is on the lower right-hand toolbar. This is the only place that the user can interact with Deep Instinct. They cannot find Deep Instinct in the program files. They cannot find Deep Instinct in the add remove programs, right? This is the only way they can interact with Deep Instinct. And as you can see, for a regular user, this is all they'll see. There's nothing for them to interact with. Even if they go into the settings page, there's nothing for them to do. So the point here is we're not relying on the end user to control the security at their machine. We're talking about an organization security. So it should be centralized at the security admin level. The people who knows about cybersecurity should decide what should be done about cybersecurity. That's the whole point here. And of course, we also have a task manager open. There was a question about the resource consumption before. So here you can see how Deep Instinct uses the resources on the machine. On average, it takes about less than 1% of the CPU. As you can see, it takes less than half a gigabyte of RAM. And again, the hard drive space is about 130 or 140 megabytes on a Windows. On a Mac, I think it's slightly more, maybe 150. So very, very little resource consumption, and Deep Instinct works automatically as the machine operates. The user has no say in when to stop Deep Instinct from working, right? Even if you surf the internet, can you open Chrome and Deep Instinct side by side? So let me visit a website that has a lot of temp files written into your disk, right? It has to go through a lot of data. And as you will see, Deep Instinct works automatically. As the user clicks through, Deep Instinct scans anything and everything that happens on your machine. And if you go into the task manager, the resource consumption is not very high. We can click through. ลองไปเว็บไซต์กระปุกก็ได้ครับ This is an even bigger website. This is a news article website. So you have thousands and thousands of articles being loaded at the same time. Deep Instinct is going crazy, just trying to scan everything. But of course, as you can see, the CPU consumption, it's high because of Chrome. It's not high because of Deep Instinct. เอาขึ้นไปให้ดูได้ไหม Why? Yeah, it's high because of Chrome. It's not high because of Deep Instinct. So as you can see here, it's a big website. And Deep Instinct is not taking a lot of resources still, right? So what happens when there's an attack, right? That right now there was no attack. It was just scanning all benign everything, right? So here I have prepared these malwares have been confirmed they are malwares, right? I've downloaded these malwares from a third-party threat intelligence. They have all been confirmed. We can cross-reference it if you have any doubts that they are real malwares or not. We can cross-reference it with other threat intelligences as well. And what we will do right now is that all of these malwares are currently locked behind a zip file. What we will do now is we'll want to extract them. So this will mimic how a ransomware can enter your machine. It could come from your email. It could come from a USB drive. It could come from a website. It doesn't matter how it comes from. Let's just say there's a ransomware trying to be written onto your machine or a spyware or whatever else. As you see here, Deep Instinct reacted. We prevented 100 of those threats within a few seconds. Oh, can we do it again? But this time we focus on the resource consumption. And open the folder as well. So of course it takes up a little bit, but hopefully there's no one on a regular basis opening 100 malware files, right? But as you can see, even if it went up a few, I think 20%, 20% or whatever, it came down very, very quickly. And everything is done. Everything is over. There's nothing for the user to do. There's nothing for the user that they can do. All they can do now is they can look at what happened, why it was prevented, and close each notification individually or close all notifications. That's it. All the events that happened just now are now being sent to the management console. On the other side, the security admin is sitting at their desk. They can access the management console through a web console. Once you sign in, you are greeted with this dashboard, right? So this dashboard, it summarizes everything that's been happening over the past 1 day, 3 days, 7 days, 30 days, whatever, right? And you can see in terms of the statistics and the other information related to the general information. Now, if you want to go into an in-depth analysis of what we found just now, we go into the events page. As you saw, there's 153 different types of threats that is happening over the last 24 hours. As you see here on the most left column, all of this are the ones that we have just tested just now, right? This is in no, this is from yesterday. Can we unfilter it and get the ones from today?
มันเป็นอีเวนต์3 ทีพี่บอกว่าเป็น
Okay,
2
so these are recurring events. We've tested these events the day before yesterday. Actually, we tested these events yesterday, and as you see, these are all new events. And we've seen a lot of types of malwares. We're seeing some viruses, we're seeing some backdoors, we're seeing some spyware. As we scroll down, we're seeing a lot more. We can classify them individually as well. Let's go into, and dropper as well. The scarier ones are usually backdoors and droppers and ransomwares, right? That's what we're mostly afraid of. So let's go into the dropper one. As we see here, Deep Instinct has classified this as a dropper because according to the deep classification, it reveals that it is 74% dropper. But it does not only have one personality, it also has a spyware capability, it also has a backdoor capability. The same as all the other malwares that you saw just now. Even if it looks like a virus, when you click into it, it has multiple personalities. Very, very rarely we will see 100% of something, right? And as you see here, the event action, it was prevented automatically. As you saw on the screen, the alert came up, everything is over, there's nothing else for the user to do, everything goes back to being safe. The security admin can see where this file was coming from. As we see, it came from a Windows installer, it's a temp file. If you scroll down, you will see that Deep Instinct also gives a lot more meta information. It gives you the information based on MITRE mapping, what type of technique, and sub-techniques are being used by this particular malware. So this is beneficial on if you are interested in analyzing the malware. But in terms of the operation, the day-to-day operation is over, it's prevented. There's nothing else to do. You can close the ticket, right? Furthermore, though, just for the interest of this session, next, right below file hash, you can see that we can cross-reference the file hash with Google, VirusTotal, and Alien Vault. VirusTotal usually has the widest range of information from most vendors. So let's just try it out here. As we see here, this malware has been found out 2 months ago. Out of 67 vendors being compared, 46 can now detect and prevent these malwares. Now, when they'll prevent these malwares, usually it's a post-execution basis. But with Deep Instinct, what we saw is even before it touched your hard drive, the alert came up, the file was never written onto your disk, right? But just for the interest, let's just go and see at the bottom who can catch this and who can't catch this, right? And you can also see some that cannot even process this file type. And usually, as time goes by, more and more vendors will be able to detect this particular threat. So this is just a quick overview of what we can do as a quick comparison as well. We can go into the details of this malware. Oh, by detail. this is the one of the malwares that we tested just now. So you can see that virus total has nothing to do with us. Deep Instinct is not in virus total. So there's no reason for them to favor us in any way or form. In fact, Virus Total is a daughter company of Google, so definitely they have nothing to do with us. Can you scroll a bit further down? As you see here, this malware has been found since March. So everyone has had ample time to update their solution. Let's go see some other events that we've prepared to also show you today. Would you like to see anything in particular? If anyone like to see anything in particular, please raise your hand or please let me know. But this next case study that we have prepared for you today, this is quite interesting. We found this in one of the organizations during April. Towards the end of April, they were attacked with a ransomware. When they told us that they were attacked with the ransomware, they were already at the full encryption phase. So Deep Instinct was not on their machine from the very start. We were only called in, and then they only found out about our services and ended up becoming our customer after they were attacked. So after they were attacked, Deep Instinct's team went in. We got a hold of some of their machines. We installed Deep Instinct on some of those machines. Luckily, and I say luckily because not always that we will find the ransomware. Sometimes it destroys itself after full encryption, and there's nothing for you to find ever. Unless you go into a bunch of logs, right, to try and figure out when it came in. But in this case, luckily, we found it. It's still on the machine. You can scroll a bit further down to see the MITRE mapping. You can see a bit further down the process chain. We found this during the scan itself. We found on 10 of their machines, same Lockbit ransomware. We sent this file into Deep Instinct's lab for further analysis. They also confirmed that this is a real Lockbit 2.0. It's a different variant from what they've found before. Deep Instinct has found Lockbit multiple times. Here is an example from Accenture. Middle of last year, they were also attacked with Lockbit 2.0. They were attacked with the August version. Deep Instinct has seen multiple variances of Lockbit 2.0. We've caught multiple variances since it was Lockbit 1.0. So not just Lockbit, we've also dealt with Ryuk ransomware, Revil ransomware, and many other families as well. Maze ransomware and many more as well. Let me see. There's a question here, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, policy part needs to be discussed. Yeah.
All right. Before we go into the policy, let's go into a fileless attack then. Well, before we go into a fileless attack, this is a coin miner that we found. It was embedded in one of the machines. There were a few other coin miners that we found as well at the site with Lockbit attack. Let's go into a fileless attack demo. Okay, so we prepared some fileless attack scenarios for you as well. These are PowerShell attacks. Let us show you first. ไม่เปิดสคริปต์ให้ดูก่อนปะ This is the script. Obviously, it makes no sense. And no one's gonna put this before, like no one's gonna check out the script before they open the file, right? But let me just for the interest of this demonstration, we can see here. Let's try to run it.
It might take some time because
Okay.
it is a behavioral analysis.
Okay. Nah, I thought there was going to be some scripts that were written on the PowerShell screen. My bad. So as you see here, the PowerShell was never run. In fact, it never even got started. That's why I was a bit confused. And Deep Instinct was able to catch it through behavioral analysis. And as you can see here, we're not just blocking all PowerShell files, but we have worked out that this is a malicious PowerShell command execution. Let's go through a few others as well that we've prepared for today. And it's removed from your machine straight away, as you see. It doesn't exist anymore. There's another one. This is very quick, of course. There's a Trojan. Last one. And of course, I believe you're all quite familiar with Log4j attack. We'll show that after this as well. Similarly, as you see, it's very, very quick. The machine never slowed down, and the user is not pressured in any way or form. Everything is over. They can go back to doing their work. The security admin will find the event information in the dashboard, and they can react to it however they deem fit. Apart from the events that we saw just now, we can also go through suspicious events. These are all fileless scripts that are being run. It's good to know what are being run at our machines. Some may be used by your own, some may be malicious, so we can go and check it out here. We also break down each with the MITRE mapping, so you can see why we believe it was malicious. You can see the device information as well. Now, this is a big example, the Log4Shell attack. Deep Instinct also has this resource in their website as well. Without going through all the little information, I believe we're all quite familiar with the Log4j or Log4Shell attack. It became more prevalent towards the end of last year, up until about March of this year. About 800,000 organizations around the world were identified with as a victim of a Log4j attack within those 3 months. And here's an example with Deep Instinct on the machine. Once the Log4j is run, the vulnerability before the patch, of course, even if Deep Instinct cannot patch your machine, it can detect that this is a 0-day attack. And before anything malicious were to happen, as you can see, the script's already running, but there's nothing malicious yet. As soon as something malicious happens, Deep Instinct blocks the whole thing and deletes the file. And that's what happened with Log4j as well, even if we didn't know it was a vulnerability. And this is a common question because, and rightfully so, the client is very prudent about trying to patch all their vulnerabilities. But the problem is, that's the attacker's job, right? The attacker's job did a good job in finding out the vulnerability that nobody knew about. And it took months and months to patch. And even up until May of this year, more than a quarter of the applications are still not patched yet. So how do we know what's the next vulnerability? We cannot ever patch it in time. So what we have to depend on is the security solution on our machine. Is it smart enough to detect something that is unknown? And the best way to detect an unknown attack is by using an AI that learns like a human and can identify the difference by looking at the overall picture or 100% of the algorithm. And that's in each step. Again, I'm sure you've heard me say this a few times over and over, but this is exactly how the deep learning process works. This is exactly how deep learning works in Tesla. It's exactly how deep learning is being used in YouTube recommendation videos or Netflix program recommendations, or Google or Baidu NLP programming. It's used very, very similarly. In terms of the report, there are multiple ways we can send reports out of Deep Instinct. We can do scheduling. We can do on demand of the executive summary report. This report is designed for briefly summarizing all statistics that have been happening over the past duration. You can pick here 1 day, 1 week, 2 months, 3 months, whatever. Other ways we can send information out of Deep Instinct is by integrating with your syslog, with REST API, and then the possibility is endless. What type of log would you like to send out? Would you like to only send in security information? Would you like to only send audit log or else? You can also pick them here so you can manage your EPS accordingly as well. And let's check out the executive summary. Of course, everything that you saw on the events page, it can also be exported out as an Excel file as well. And here is the executive summary report. It's a brief report. There are only a few pages. On the first page, it summarizes the total statistics. How many files were scanned over the last 3 months, right? How many were prevented? How many were prevented with behavioral analysis? How many were prevented with static analysis? And what are the risk factors associated with them? What type of files they are? What type of malwares they are? How much risk is associated with the behavioral analysis? There were 10 PowerShell commands executions. Were there any in-memory threats? Were there any suspicious activities? These are summarized here. New deployments. These are all about deployments on the last page here. And that's it. That's the executive summary. There's no in-depth security information because all of that, as I mentioned, they can all be sent out via integrating with CM or SAW or other EDR solutions. There was a question that was related to the policies as well. So let's go through that here. We have multiple default policies that are created for multiple OSs, but obviously when it comes to real use within the organizations, you may also have different policies that are dedicated to Windows, but they are being used by different departments and they may require different strictness to how they are being designed. They can easily be managed here. They can be added as much as you like. You can choose them here. How what are the platforms you want to base this on? What are the common policies you want to base on before you start changing them? You can click create. Once you create, you can come up with rules or manually organize your machines into different policies. Under each policy, you can manage how strict you want the policies to be. For example, let's say for a marketing department, you might be more strict than the IT department because different levels of users. For the IT department, you may allow PowerShell scripts. For other departments, you may not allow all of them at all. A lot of configurations can be done here, both fileless and file-based attacks. In terms of memory protection, you can also do some selections there if you would like to do that. Of course, the more you turn on, the more resources are consumed. But as you see here, the policy that we use to test on this machine just now, most of the policies are being turned on. Let me just show you that here. This is the policy that we used as we demonstrated to you just now. Everything is turned on to the maximum. And as you saw, there was nothing that was consuming too much resources or whatever. But of course, if you turn off some of them, then even less resources will be consumed, right? In terms of management, you can set disabling and uninstall passwords so the users cannot do those themselves. You can integrate Deep Instinct with the Windows Security Center for a much smoother operation. You can choose if you want to use, if you want to allow the updates to be done automatically or not. How would you like the rollout to be? Would you like to do a gradual deployment or gradual update in the future? For some organizations that may have internal policies that they can't change, that require them to do a schedule scan, we can set that up. But as you saw, Deep Instinct always perform a scan as it's on your machine. So there's, in terms of a practical use, there's no need for you to set up a schedule scan. But in some cases, for their ISO commitment, they may have to set some kind of scheduled scanning just to comply with that, and we're able to do that here as well. Are there any specific questions related to the policies or integrations? If I'm going through it too quickly, please let me know as well.
Alamgir Talukdar bhai, did we answer your question?
Thank you very much. I got my answer. Thank you.
Thank you,
If
sir.
any other questions, please do let us know. The session will end soon, but thank you for giving us time. Before going that, the floor, Arin, the floor is open for the questions right now, right?
Of course, of course. You have.
Please, can I see the report portion?
Pardon?
Can we see the report portion or report?
We showed the executive summary report before. Oh, can we go into the integrations part? What type of report are you looking for, sir? Hello?
Yeah, just to show the basic report, I think from PDF we have shared. Yeah.
This is the PDF report that we can export out of Deep Instinct. This is the executive summary report. As we saw before, it provides a brief of all the statistics over the use. In this case, we requested for the use over 1 month between July and August the 2nd. And these are the summaries of all the statistics that happened then and between this time. In terms of other types of reporting, each organizations may have different requirements. What can be done through Deep Instinct's management console? Oh, can we go back to the events page? Whatever you can see here can be exported out. You can export all visible columns, or you can export everything that Deep Instinct has ever captured, right? So once we export that, this is an Excel file. So this can be built into further reports as well. There's an example of a report that we have done with the template. Oak, do you have the example of the pivot table report?
Let me find one real fast.
Okay.
So if anyone has any questions, other questions, while Ashwi is pulling up the report regarding the overall deep learning technology or anything else. As Hasib Bhai asked previously regarding the deep learning technology, because you can also find in the website and also in the other intellectual property sites that Deep Instinct has 4 patented technology, which is actually regarding deep learning. So these are actually they are using for their technology. So those documentations are all there. All the documentations are available publicly in the website. So if anyone needs anything, you can directly go to deepinstinct.com. So that will help, and or you can also connect to us. This is Sufi from Artnetics. So I will write my number, and you can also connect me, and I can share the details.
This is an example of, let's go back to the Excel file that we exported out first, so we can see the difference. Okay, so we didn't bring everything out. We only brought the last 5 events out, but as you can see, if you have more events, then more rows will be filled up. We just have to adjust the first column a little bit. And as you can see here, it's a lot of information, but we've captured, these are only the information that we've captured. And as you can see here, there's no personal information here, right? So there's, I know that there's a lot of concerns with privacy. So I just want to put that out there off the bat that, there's no need to concern with privacy when you use Deep Instinct. From here, we can construct a much more detailed report for the customer as well by using the template that we have outlined here. As you can see here, we have outlined the report to summarize the use, how many machines, how many types of malwares, what were these malwares, where were these malwares, what are the statistics significance since they've started using. And these are, this and more can be explored into what type of reports can be done. But essentially, you have all the information you need at your hands. Reports can also be integrated via REST API. Deep Instinct has a REST API function where you can export and integrate Deep Instinct's information with other platforms as well in order to construct a detailed or a compiled report. And here's the REST API. Here are the REST API options. The integrations are quite easy. Most of them are get, put, post, delete. It's all there. All related actions that you can take with Deep Instinct and send information in and out. It's all here. Is this clear for you, sir, in terms of reporting? And of course, we have syslog. We support multiple formats of logs for various protocols of syslogs as well. We also support NX logs. So information can be sent out to construct more reports outside there as well. If I have more information about your organization, we can explore a much more specific manner of what type of reporting can be useful for you as well. And we can discuss that in further in future sessions as well. Is that okay?
Yeah, Arin, absolutely. I think if anyone has any questions, any other questions, we can take it, or you can, I already put my number and email address in the chat box. Please do connect with us. So we'll be happy to help you out to share the information. So please do share your questions. Our scheduled time was up to 1 p.m. So if no further questions, we would like to end this meeting. If you guys have no other questions, yeah.
Sure. Before we go, I would just like to thank everyone's time and of course, thanks a lot for all your questions. I believe 1 hour and a half is not enough to explore everything. But I hope I've given you a wide perspective of what we can do and how endpoint protections can be massively improved and what kind of risks we're in today. We are more than happy to continue these sessions and explore a more in-depth value of what we can do, what Deep Instinct can do for your organizations in future sessions. Please contact Sufi. He's the country partner. Our country partner right now, and of course we're all quite excited and we look forward to meeting with you again soon. Sophie, would you like to add anything here?
Yeah, thank you, Arin, for sharing valuable information. Today we learned about the deep learning technology, how Deep Instinct actually preventing the cybersecurity issues. And thank you to your team, Ashwi, Teb, and all our participants. Thank you for listening to us patiently and giving us questions and all other things. And Yes.
Okay, thank you to you all.
Thank you. Have a nice day. Bye.
Thank you.
You.